Fahari wandered through Delana, her eyes taking in the tranquil village. The sunlight filtered gently through the leaves of the ancient trees, casting playful patterns on the ground. She breathed in deeply, savoring the crisp air, and allowed herself to relax, if only for a moment. Her training had brought her here from Shadowglen, and though her path was uncertain, she found herself drawn to the rhythms of this place, feeling the pulse of the forest. As she walked past the inn, she noticed a familiar face, standing across the way. Fahari paused, curious. Cyril seemed to be waiting for someone.
Fahari. Just the person I was hoping to see.
Cyril, is everything all right? You look like you've been waiting for someone important.
Are you heading to the south? To Lake Alameth?
Lake Alameth? I hadn't planned on it, but I could. Is there something you need?
If so, then I have a task I might ask of you.
Of course, Cyril. What is it?
My colleague Denalan has a camp along the eastern end of the lake. He is studying and experimenting on the plant life of Teldrassil.
Denalan? The researcher? I've heard of him. What does he need?
He requested a package of rare earths from Darnassus, and it was late, only recently arriving here in Delana.
I see. So you'd like me to take it to him?
Can you take the package to him?
I'd be happy to help. Consider it done.
Fahari set off towards Lake Alameth, the package safely stowed in her satchel. The path was familiar, winding through the lush forest, the air filled with the scent of blooming flowers and the distant chirping of birds. As she approached the lake, a sense of unease began to creep over her. The Timberlings, normally gentle and peaceful, were behaving strangely. She watched from a distance as they moved restlessly, their usual calm replaced by erratic, almost frantic behavior. Fahari furrowed her brow, concern growing. Something was wrong. She stepped closer, hoping to get a better look, when suddenly one of the Timberlings turned towards her, its eyes wild. Before she could react, it lunged at her. Instinctively, Fahari raised her hands, channeling her nature magic. Thick roots shot up from the earth, wrapping around the Timberling's legs and holding it in place. The Timberling's attack was deflected, but Fahari's heart pounded in her chest. She had never seen them act like this before. What could be causing such corruption in these once peaceful creatures? Curious and puzzled, Fahari moved forward, her mind racing with questions. From far away, she noticed Denalan's camp, the small tents and equipment barely visible in the distance. However, the path ahead was filled with more Timberlings, all of them agitated and unpredictable. They blocked the way, their behavior growing more erratic the closer she came. Fahari paused, evaluating her options. She could try to fight her way through, but that meant harming the very creatures she was meant to protect. Her other option was to jump into Lake Alameth and swim around to the camp. She sighed, her resolve firming. She would not harm the forest if she could help it. With a determined leap, Fahari dove into the lake. The cool water enveloped her, and she began to swim, her strokes steady and strong. The swim was long, the lake's waters deeper than she had anticipated, but eventually, she reached the shore near Denalan's camp. Dripping wet but unharmed, Fahari pulled herself onto the bank, her eyes scanning for Denalan. Whatever was happening here, she needed answers.
It's here. I have waited for this rare earth for quite some time. I hope it's still fresh.
I made sure to bring it as quickly as I could, Denalan. It was quite the journey getting here.
Thank you for bringing it to me, Fahari. You are a night elf who is generous with her time.
It's no trouble at all. But Denalan, I couldn't help but notice. The Timberlings, they seem different. Restless and aggressive. Do you have any idea what could be causing it?
I do have some thoughts, but give me a moment, Fahari. Let me prepare a few things first. I will need your help, but we must proceed carefully.
Denalan moved swiftly, taking the package of rare earth and placing it into a wooden tub near his workstation. Fahari watched as he carefully measured and mixed, his eyes focused on his task, the tension in the air growing with each passing moment.
The Timberlings of Teldrassil are elementals of nature. In some ways, they reflect the natural order of plants and animals on our great tree.
Elementals of nature, so their behavior could be connected to the state of the forest itself.
Exactly. It is disturbing to see how angry they are, particularly considering that things should be healing. Something must be influencing them.
Is there anything we can do to help them?
I want to find the source of this corruption. I have been working on different methods of nurturing plants, and I would like to try them on Timberling seeds. Fahari, could you gather seeds from the Timberlings around Lake Al-Amath and bring them to me?
Of course, Denalan. I'll do whatever I can to help. Gathering the seeds might give us some answers.
There is one more thing, Fahari. Small Timberlings are sprouting around the waters of Lake Al-Amath. I'm afraid these sprouts are beyond help. We should try to clear them from the land before they grow large enough to cause trouble.
You want me to take care of the sprouts as well? I understand. It's important to keep things from getting worse.
Yes, exactly. When you're wandering the lake, if you see any Timberling sprouts, please take them. It will help keep our land clean and reduce the spread of whatever corruption is affecting them.
Understood. I'll take care of the sprouts while I'm gathering the seeds. We must do everything we can to help Teldrassil heal.
Fahari ran out of the camp area, her focus on the tasks at hand. She began collecting the Timberling seeds and taking care of the sprouts, moving swiftly and efficiently along the lake's edge. She was so absorbed in her work that she hadn't realized how far she had wandered from Denalan's camp. Suddenly, something caught her eye, a strange plant, standing alone a little farther away. It glowed with a brilliant violet-pink aura, unlike anything she had ever seen before. Fahari slowed her pace, curiosity piqued, and stopped near the plant, her eyes wide in wonder. Hanging beneath the fronds of the glowing plant was a large, round fruit. Its vibrant glow seemed almost otherworldly. Fahari leaned in closer, her eyes fixed on the mysterious fruit. She could sense an unusual energy emanating from it, something unlike any plant she had encountered in Teldrassil. Denalan would surely want to study this fruit, she thought. Carefully, she reached out, her fingers brushing against its surface. It was smooth and warm to the touch, and she knew instantly that this discovery could be crucial to understanding what was happening to the Timberlings. With the glowing fruit safely stowed away, Fahari turned her attention back to the task at hand. She finished gathering the remaining seeds, her movements swift and efficient. Once she had collected everything she needed, she sprinted back towards Denalan's camp, her heart pounding with anticipation.
Denalan, I've gathered the Timberling seeds.
You got them. This is good. I'm hoping that careful study might lead me to understand where the Timberling corruption stems from.
What will you do with them?
I will plant these seeds in special soil I have prepared. I believe the seeds will sprout into Timberlings who are much more docile. Perhaps later you can see the results.
That sounds promising. I will do.
I need another favor from you.
Of course. What is it?
Can you take one of the seeds you brought me to my friend Rillian Greenspire?
Rillian Greenspire?
Yes, he is a druid that resides at Wellspring Hovel. When last we spoke, he revealed his interest in my work with the Timberlings. He had some ideas himself, and he will appreciate a specimen seed to work with.
All right, I understand. I'll deliver it to him. Where can I find Wellspring Hovel?
You will find Wellspring Hovel along the road heading west out of Denalan on the way to Darnassus. Thank you, Fahari. I hope that someday you will see the fruit of my labors.
It sounds like he might have some insights that could help. I'll be on my way. By the way, Denalan, I noticed there are quite a lot of Timberling sprouts still growing out there.
That's a lot. I'm afraid they're spreading at a dangerous rate. I hope I can solve the riddle of what is tainting them.
Is there anything else I can do to help with the sprouts?
You've done more than enough, Fahari. Thank you for your help. The land is a cleaner place from your efforts.
I also found something else in the forest. It was a glowing fruit, unlike anything I've seen before.
You found this on Teldrassil. Intriguing. This fruit is exotic.
Exotic? What do you mean?
Perhaps its seeds were brought here from far off. Perhaps even as far as Azeroth. And there's something about this fruit. It seems to have reacted very strangely with the soil of Teldrassil.
Do you think it could help us understand what's happening with the Timberlings?
It might, Fahari. Thank you for bringing this to me. Now, if you'll excuse me, I must study this further.
Denalan planted the seed Fahari brought, carefully placing it into the soil he had prepared. At first, the sprout that emerged looked normal, tiny, green, full of potential. But moments later, something shifted. The small Timberling young that sprouted from the soil turned violent, its energy chaotic and aggressive. Fahari barely had time to react before the tiny creature lunged at her. She swiftly defended herself, her reflexes honed from her training, and dispatched the aggressive Timberlings. When the last one fell, she stood there, breathing heavily, her gaze fixed on the disturbed soil. She had not expected this. The outcome of the seeds was far from what she or Denalan had imagined. There was something very wrong with the corruption affecting the Timberlings, and this strange behavior was just another piece of the puzzle. With a heavy heart, Fahari began her journey west to meet Rillian Greenspire. Her thoughts were clouded with worry and sadness, the events at Denalan's camp replaying in her mind. The Timberlings were supposed to be gentle, yet they had turned hostile in an instant. What could be causing such corruption? As she traveled, questions piled up in her mind. What had changed in Teldrassil? Could the strange fruit she found be connected? Why were the Timberlings, once protectors of the forest, now behaving so violently? Fahari clenched her fists, her resolve hardening. She would find the answers, whatever it took.
Denalan, I apologize for being late. The journey took longer than expected.
Ah, a Timberling seed. I wanted to try growing one of these to help Denalan with his studies.
Yes, I brought it for you. Denalan thought you might be interested in studying it.
But I'm afraid I've discovered that a corruption has grown in many of the Timberlings, and seeds from such creatures carry their parents' taint. They are beyond my talents to repair.
So, there's no way to save them?
Denalan is very skilled with things that grow. He may find a cure for future Timberlings. He may be their only hope. This is one of the reasons I called Denalan here. There is a malevolence growing in the Timberlings. We are trying to find the source, but until we do, We need to keep Teldrassil safe.
What do you need me to do?
In order to protect Teldrassil, we must cut down the Timberlings who are beyond help. Those that wander Wellspring Lake to the north are the most tainted. They need to be removed.
You want me to destroy the corrupted Timberlings?
Yes. Destroy the Timberlings you find there, and gather the mossy tumors growing upon them. Bring the tumors to me so that they may be burned. It is the only way to ensure the corruption does not spread further.
Fahari followed the road to the west, her eyes scanning the surroundings as she sought Wellspring Lake. The path was quiet, with only the rustling of leaves and the occasional call of distant wildlife. After a while, she noticed some strange creatures along the way, half elf-like, half bird-like beings. Curiosity pulled at her, but she kept her focus on the road ahead. She needed to find the lake. Eventually, Fahari arrived at a moonwell, the soft light shimmering over its surface. There she found Sentinel Arinia and Priestess Amora, their presence both reassuring and commanding. Fahari had a brief conversation with them and learned that the strange creatures she had seen were harpies. The Sentinel had been sent to protect the Oracle Tree from these harpies, a duty she took seriously. Fahari resumed her journey, her mind still occupied with the Sentinel's words. But somewhere along the way, she must have misunderstood the directions. Before long, she found herself much closer to the harpies' nests than she had intended. The air was filled with the distant screeching of the creatures, and a sense of unease settled over her. As she scanned her surroundings, she noticed another tree, a tree that glowed with the same aura she had seen before, near Denalan's camp. The tree's glow was captivating, almost calling to her. The yellow and violet hue was distinct, unlike anything else in the forest. Fahari took a deep breath, her gaze fixed on the mysterious tree. Was it connected to the corruption? Did it hold more secrets waiting to be unraveled? She knew she couldn't leave without investigating further, even if it meant facing the harpies nearby. Fahari moved cautiously, eliminating the harpies that blocked her path until she reached the glowing tree. The fronds on the tree shimmered in the forest light, their twisting, pulsing aura mesmerizing. She studied the strange plant closely, her instincts telling her that this was something Denalan would surely want to examine. Carefully, she took a specimen of the shimmering frond, knowing it might be crucial in their search to understand the corruption spreading through Teldrassil. Fahari finally found her way to Wellspring Lake, her steps cautious as she approached the water's edge. The air was thick with an unnatural tension, and she could see the Timberlings roaming, their forms twisted and tainted. One by one, Fahari subdued the Timberlings, her heart heavy with each strike. She collected the mossy tumors from their remains, feeling the weight of their corruption. Once her task was complete, Fahari turned and ran back towards rillian, her satchel filled with the collected tumors. She hoped that this would be a step towards cleansing the forest, a small victory in an ongoing struggle.
Denalan, I found something unusual near the harpy's nest. It's a glowing frond from a tree I hadn't seen before.
Where did you get this? I haven't seen a plant like this since a sojourn I made to the Swamp of Sorrows, decades ago.
The Swamp of Sorrows. I can't believe something like this made its way here.
It's amazing that a specimen made its way to Teldrassil, and it's grown to such a size.
Do you think it might be connected to the corruption somehow?
Thank you, Fahari. Forgive my shortness of words, but there is a test I would like to perform on this frond.
Rillian, I've brought the mossy tumors you asked for.
Well done. These tumors are the symptom of the Timberlings' disease. They are filled with a poison that we must cleanse from our new land.
What will you do with them now?
I will dispose of these tumors. Thank you, Fahari. Your help has been invaluable. Fahari, I figured it out. I had to rush here to find you. It's so simple, really. The corruption has spread from Timberling to Timberling, but there's one that is the source.
One source? What do you mean, Denalan?
Oakenscowl. He's being poisoned by the largest tumor I have ever seen. I would call it gargantuan, even.
Oakenscowl? Where can I find him?
He used to reside in a cave near my lake, but has since found his way to a nook to the northeast of here. Fahari, hunt down Oakenscowl and collect the tumor. Remove this source of corruption from my home.
Fahari headed towards the northeast, a determination unwavering. She crossed Wellspring Lake, the water's surface rippling softly under her gaze, and followed the path north. After a short travel, she found Oakenscowl, a restless and imposing creature, its movements filled with a strange agitation. She knew she needed to plan her attack carefully. With the area cleared, she finally turned her attention to Oakenscowl. The fight was fierce. The corrupted creature did not go down easily. Each strike and spell she cast seemed to meet relentless resistance, but she pressed on. After a grueling struggle, she managed to subdue Oakenscowl, breathing heavily as the creature fell. Fahari collected the gargantuan tumor from Oakenscowl, her hands steady despite the weight of the task. Without wasting any time, she turned and began her journey back to Denalan, her heart hopeful that this would mark a turning point in their battle against the corruption.
Denalan, I've brought the tumor. It was a difficult fight, but I managed to subdue Oakenscowl.
I knew you were more than capable of ridding the lake of that horrible beast.
It wasn't easy. Oakenscowl was strong, and the corruption had made him even more dangerous.
It is a distressing situation. Oakenscowl was once a grand leader amongst his kind, but corruption does not discriminate between the lowly and the noble.
The tumor. It's massive. What will you do with it?
The size of this tumor is quite disturbing, but I must study it to learn more about the disease that upsets the Timberling population.
I hope it helps. Is there anything else I can do?
Thank you, Fahari. Your efforts have been invaluable. For now, I must focus on understanding this corruption further.
Fahari bid farewell to Denalan and rillian, her heart heavy with the weight of the mysteries still unsolved. She turned towards Darnassus, her step steady, but her mind racing with questions. As she walked, her thoughts lingered on Oakenscowl and the strange glowing plants she had encountered. Despite her efforts to help Denalan manage the corruption, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this than what they had uncovered. Who had corrupted these creatures? And how did a plant from the distant Swamp of Sorrows make its way to Teldrassil? The answers eluded her, and though she had brought some measure of peace to the forest, she knew her journey was far from over.